So let me tell you how Soapy got his nickname. It was at an earlier gold rush in Colorado. Soapy was selling soap for $1 a bar, and at the time soap sold for a penny. So a crowd gathered around to see what was so special about his soap. Soapy said to the crowd, "My soap will add 10 years to your life. My soap will grow hair on your bald head. And my soap will even wash away all your sins." But still nobody wanted to pay $1 for that soap. But then Soapy said to the crowd, "But my soap has one other very special quality. Inside the wrappings of some of my bars of soap, you will find $20 bills, $50 bills, and even $100 bills. Who will be the first to buy a bar of my soap?" A fella down back said, "I'll buy a bar of that soap. Here's my $1. He opened up his soap. Inside he found a $20 bill. A fellow on the right said, "I'll take a bar of that soap. Here's my $1. He opened up his soap. Inside he found a $50 bill. A fella down back said, "Give me a bar of that money-making soap. Here's my $1. He opened up his soap, and to his astonished surprise, inside there he found a crisp $100 bill. Well, that was enough to get the crowd surging forward with their money out. Soapy sold soap as fast as he could make the transactions. Once he sold enough soap, Soapy slipped out a side door, followed by 3 other gentlemen. The only ones who actually got money in their soap were Soapy's partners. Everyone else got soap. You might say they were cleaned out." Now, Soapy had lots of scams in Skagway, and my favorite one was the telegraph office. He had a big sign out front that said, "Telegram sent anywhere in the world, $5. So the new people arriving in town went into his office to send a telegram back to their family to let them know they had arrived safely. Soapy's men told them to come back in an hour to get the reply from their family. Now, those folks didn't know it, but Soapy's men made all the replies up, because the telegraph cable only went a half a mile out of town and ended. So an hour later, when they came back to get the telegram they thought was from their family, Soapy's men said to them, "Gee, we're awful sorry, but your family sent your reply, collect." They charged them another $5 for the collect telegram that wasn't even from their family. And if the people had nice clothes and nice shoes, and maybe a nice watch or a nice ring on their finger, a sign they had some money, Soapy's men worded their reply special. Their reply said, "There's a family emergency. Please wire money." That money got wired right into Soapy's men's pocket. He really skinned the rich people. Take a look over to our left and you'll see the railroad tracks, and notice that they are very close together. They're only 3 feet apart, and what they are called is a narrow gauge railway. Narrow gauge railways are the railway of choice in mountainous terrain because they only require a 10-foot wide rail bed, which makes them very economical to build. Standard gauge tracks are 4 foot 8.5 inches apart, and they require a 15-foot wide rail bed, which makes them much too costly in mountainous terrain. Another advantage that narrow gauge railroad tracks have is that they can make very sharp turns, which is a big asset in mountainous terrain. We're turning right here and we're going up the pass. We're going to cross the Skagway River right here, which is the main drainage for all the water on this side of the summit. You will notice that the water has a green tinge to it. That's because it contains glacial silt. At this level in Skagway, we are just outside the northern end of the Tongass National Forest, which is a temperate zone rainforest. So the trees here are very tall and very green. But as we go up the pass today, we're going to see the trees get shorter and shorter and shorter. Until we get up to the summit of the pass, the trees will only be about the height of our knees. The reason for that is that we will have entered into another climate zone, which is called the Sub-Alpine plain. Ordinarily, to change climate zones like that, you would have to go up in elevation at least 12,000 feet to 15,000 feet. But today, we're only going to go up in elevation 3,300 feet, yet we will have changed climate zones. The reason we can do that here today is because we're so far north here in Alaska. Coming up just up ahead, I want you to look on both sides of the road for bears. Bears have been spotted in this vicinity several times this summer. And the bears even come closer to town than this. They actually even sometimes go right into the downtown. Last summer we had a bear on 6th Avenue in the children's playground on a busy day when there were almost 10,000 people in town from the ships. That same bear had also been raiding the tents in the campground where I showed you my tent, stealing the people's food from their tents while they worked. So you just never know where a bear might make its appearance. Just up ahead we're going to see a road going down to the section of Skagway called Liarsville. It was called that during the gold rush because newspaper reporters used to live there. And the reporters would write articles for publication in big city newspapers all over the world that would say that you could just walk around the gold fields and pick the gold nuggets up with your bare hands and stuff them into your pockets without ever digging at all, which was, of course, completely untrue. This road right here goes down to Liarsville. Mining for gold is extremely hard work, with a pick and shovel, or with a gold pan, or with both. Oftentimes when you were panning for gold, you would be almost up to your waist in ice cold stream water, and your knees would be down on very sharp rocks in the stream bed for 8, 10, maybe even 12 hours per day, just the opposite of the way the reporters described it in their articles. I have a feeling that those reporters were actually being paid by the merchants in town to bring as many prospectors as possible up here, so that when the prospectors found out they couldn't pick the nuggets up with their bare hands, they had to dig for them. The merchants were quite happy to sell them the mining supplies they needed. So that's why they call that place Liarsville. Thank God the newspapers don't do that sort of thing these days. Notice we have flowers growing on both sides of the road here, and bears love to eat flowers. 80% of a bear's diet is vegetation, and that's what enables us to see a bear occasionally along the roadside, because these flowers don't grow in the forest because they get too much shade from the trees there. Just up ahead we're going to see a couple of small ponds called the Black Lakes since the gold rush. They were called that because the water in them is very dark. The water is dark because there's iron ore in the soil beneath the ponds that colors the water. Because the water is so dark, it absorbs the sun's rays and is therefore warmer than most bodies of water in the area. So during the gold rush, the prospectors would stop here to take a nice warm bath. Now these fellas didn't bathe very often, so I'm sure when they did, they added to the darkness of this water. Just up ahead, take a look here to the right, you'll see one of the Black Lakes, and notice that plants and grass grow in the water, and sometimes I see ducks and geese in those ponds too. So it doesn't appear the ecology was very much affected by the presence of the iron ore. Just up ahead, we're going to stop at the remains of the Brackett Wagon Road, which was built by George Brackett, who used to be the mayor of Minneapolis, Minnesota before the gold rush. He came up here to get rich, collecting tolls in his toll road, not panning for gold. He got his toll road only about 8 miles out of Skagway when the railway came to be and made his toll road obsolete. He was forced to sell his toll road to the railroad for the low price of $100,000 after he and his investors invested more than that building the road. So he took a large loss, but to offset that loss he collected some tolls before he gave control of the road over to the railroad. Some days he collected as much as $1,500 in a single day. He used to charge $1 a person, $1 a horse, and 25 cents each for a dog, a goat, a sheep, or a pig, and 2 cents a pound for the freight on top of that. All those animals were used to haul freight up the pass because it was required of each person coming through here that they have with them a minimum of 1 ton of goods, which was the food, the clothing, and the mining equipment necessary to live 1 year in the Yukon Territory. If you got to the Canadian border at the top of this mountain and did not have that stuff with you, the mounted police would send you back. And believe me, once you climbed to the top of this mountain with all that stuff, you did not want to be sent back. Now take a look out to the right here and you'll see 5 red brackets coming down beneath the railroad tracks, coming down Palm Creek. Down below those red brackets and a little to the left is a white sign on a stick. To the left of the white sign is a light-colored path, and to the right of that little sign is an indented path going downhill to the right. That's the remains of the Brackett Wagon Road. there you'll see the small white sign I'm talking about, and to the left of it is a light-colored path going uphill to the left, and to the right is an indented path going downhill to the right. That's the remains of the wagon road. Now, when that road was first built, it was nice and wide. It would accommodate two wagons side by side. But the railroad used that road to bring their supplies in to build the railway. Once they were finished using it, they dynamited the lead beside the wagon road, brought all that rock down to fill it in to make the bed for the railroad tracks. That's why you see that narrow path today. Everybody see it? Okay. Let's get back in the vehicle and we'll head out.